Welcome to Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake and category is overlanding. This is the 2022 Ford Explorer Timberline, and somewhere, someone, some group of people, they have decided that overlanding is a thing that we are all doing now, and we need vehicles that can get a little further into nature than perhaps they could in the past. And just having a regular SUV, a regular crossover is not enough. You need extra hardware, better tires, skid plates, all that good stuff to actually go further into the wilderness where we are all apparently going. So Ford has finally responded to this craze that has been generated, and this is the version that they have come up with. So this is the more off-roady version of their popular Ford Explorer three-row crossover. This is still a unibody vehicle, but this one is designed to go a little bit further into the wilderness than any other Explorer that they sell right now. So let's talk about what this 2022 Explorer Wilderness is, talk about what powers it, all the hardware changes they've made, because this is not just a trim package, they did make some hardware changes. Do a quick walk around of the whole vehicle, and then we're actually going to get it off-road, off the pavement, and see what it's like actually in motion. If you like this video, of course, please be sure to give us a thumbs up now or sometime during your viewing period. If you like the whole channel, please be sure to subscribe. As always, we so appreciate that support. And now on to the Explorer. All right, so let's talk about what this 2022 Ford Explorer Timberline is. This is not intended to be the three-row Raptor wrapped up in an Explorer. This is a little bit softer than that, but Ford did make some actual hardware changes to this Explorer to make it more off-road focused and off-road ready. First of all, it is riding higher. You've got about half an inch, 0.6 inches of extra ground clearance here, and that is achieved with a couple different things. The first are the shock absorbers. Ford pulled the shock absorbers straight off the Explorer Police Interceptor and put them on here, and then they put a bigger tire on the car. So this is an 18-inch wheel with a Bridgestone dueler all-terrain tire. It is an actual all-terrain. It is not just all-terrain looking treads molded into a highway tire. So nice that they put actual tires on it. Between those two things, you've got 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which is about a half an inch over a standard Explorer. Nice to have that. 8.7 inches is enough for most people in most scenarios. The other thing Ford did up front is they installed special front rebound springs. So that helps when you're off-roading as far as body control on the front, keeping it so you're not slamming into the bump stops on the shocks. These are exclusive to the Explorer Timberline. You will not find them on another Explorer model. Other things you can notice up here, you've got a unique front grille. This is unique to the Explorer Timberline. It looks kind of like the one on the Explorer Police Interceptor, but it's not the same. These little plastic cutouts can be fitted with auxiliary off-road running lights from your Ford dealer. This particular example doesn't have them, but they're all pre-wired back here, so even if you don't want the Ford lights, the wiring is here, the switch is on the dash, it will all work. But this is a unique grille. You see these unique orange accents, which I think are really cool. I love seeing more and more color everywhere. So these orange accents are here no matter which paint color you pick. There's 6 paint colors you can choose from on the Explorer Timberline. This is a really cool green, but they've got some more traditional options if you want them. You're gonna get these accents no matter what. And then you get front tow hooks, recovery hooks right here, one on either side. Don't see any on the back, but I guess if you get stuck where you need to pull from the front, you've got 2 hooks here. The other thing that you can't see from the front of the car, but if you crawl underneath you will, you get a bunch of skid plates that run underneath the entire Explorer Timberline. So they are protecting you underneath the vehicle, so if you hit some things, you're not gonna puncture your oil pan, your transmission pan, right away you've got a layer of protection going on there, and those are steel skid plates. Now, what's powering the 2022 Ford Explorer Timberline? Well, Ford offers a lot of different drivetrains in the Explorer, and the one that they've chosen for all Explorer Timberlines is the 2.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. This is the same engine you're gonna find in the Ford Bronco, and a variant of it can be found in the Ford Mustang. It is a totally fine engine. It is a turbocharged 4-cylinder. It makes 300 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque in the Explorer Timberline. It is paired exclusively to a 10-speed torque converter automatic that is feeding that rear-biased all-wheel drive system. And then moving to the back of the Explorer Timberline, there is one more hardware change back here, and that is the addition of a Torsen limited slip differential on the back axle. That is a really big deal. It is nice to have some actual hardware backing up whatever software they've got for the all-wheel drive system, these better tires, the extra ground clearance. What that limited slip differential is going to do is it's going to make sure that all of your power goes to both wheels as needed, not just the wheel with the least amount of resistance. That's really important when you're off-roading, because if this tire is on something slick, say mud or ice, but your right rear tire is on some more packed, firm ground where there's traction, if you had an open differential, all that power is going to go right here, and you probably won't move very much, if at all. Having a limited slip differential means you can put power to both wheels, or it can send it more toward the right side of the car, and it will help you put power down even when this wheel has no traction. Obviously, every Explorer Timberline is all-wheel drive, so you also got the front wheels helping you out. These are a rear-biased all-wheel drive setup, but it's nice to have that limited slip diff in the rear just as an extra little bit of help. And then finally, with the Explorer Timberline, every Explorer is rated to tow a decent amount of weight. Most of them can pull 5,000 pounds or more. All of the Explorer Timberlines with their unique hardware are rated to pull 5,300 pounds. Of course, you can assume 10 to 12% tongue weight, so 530 pounds or so on the tongue itself. You do have your standard 2-inch hitch receiver back here. You've got your 7-pin trailer wiring, so pretty easy to tow. We're not going to tow with this today because I wanted to focus on off-roading, because that's the whole point of having the Timberline in particular. If you're going to be towing fairly heavy with an Explorer, you're probably going to want one that's more street focused, unless your goal is to tow something like jet skis or an ATV or side-by-side to a destination where you'll be hitting harder trails with that. I think it would be fine. We'll get into that a little bit more in the driving portion, but for the most part, you're going to want a different Explorer with on-road focused suspension, on-road focused tires, those sorts of things, and those are rated to pull a little bit more weight than this one is. All right, so that is the basic structure of what the 2022 Explorer Timberline is from an exterior perspective and from a hardware perspective. Now, the interior is different from other Explorers you can get, so let's take a quick tour of the interior, and then we'll go hit the trails and see how this thing actually performs. All right, so let's take a little interior tour of the Explorer Timberline, and the reason I want to do that is because it is very green in here. So they have a unique interior, and this is a two-tone seat. This is the only interior you will get on the Explorer Timberline, so it is ActiveX material, which is a faux leather sort of deal. It only comes in this cypress green color, and then you've got this gray cloth inlay, which is really neat, kind of a heather gray going on, and then you can see there's some orange stitching here. So really cool seats. The theme extends inside to the rest of the interior, so your armrest is like that, your door panels are green with orange stitching, and then you've got this kind of neat faux metal look going on across the dashboard. And then of course out to your steering wheel you can also see the orange stitching inlay there as well. One interesting thing worth noting, you have the wiring for those auxiliary lights. The control is right here for it, but the light showing you that they're on is just kind of this little thing drilled into the dashboard here. I'm kind of surprised they couldn't just make the aux button light up or do something different, because this seems a little aftermarket looking, but regardless, the wiring's there. That's a nice touch. Looking at the rest of the interior, kind of standard Ford gauge cluster. This is what you will see in a lot of other newish Ford products lately. You've also got Sync 3. This is not the newest Sync system. This is Sync 3, and this is on a 8-inch touchscreen. Ford does offer on other Explorers a tall infotainment screen that is bigger. This one may feel a little small. The software may feel a little old. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wired over USB. I don't know if I love the taller screen, because this one is at least out of your sight lines and kind of out of your way, but other competitors are doing a little bit more with infotainment for better or for worse. Looking down here, you've got your climate control. They're all dual zone climate control. This has heated seats and a heated steering wheel. And in here you've got your USB ports, and then you've got your shifter, your parking brake, and your drive mode selector here, and some other off-road and other driving controls going on. So looking at the back seat, these all have captain's chairs. So you again get the green and the gray and the orange. Two captain's chairs here with armrests, kind of nice. And you do have a third zone of climate control back here, and these second row seats are heated, so nice to have. And you've got some USBs and a 12-volt cigarette lighter style plug here. So nice to have. And then there's a little console for cup holders and storing other random things. And then you've got two more seats back in the third row that are also green, of course. Everything in here is green. I love it because it's new and it's fun and it's weird. Other people might find it to be a little much. Panoramic sunroof is the only extra cost option that is available on this particular model. That's the only one this particular one has. It's about $1,000. I like it because it brightens up the interior a little bit. You've also got your Timberline logo right here. And then let's take a look in the cargo area. Is a power opening hatch. And of course your second and third row seats do fold. These are manual folding. Just by pulling this lever, they flop down. You can grab the longer one to pull them back up. No big deal. Kind of Velcros right into place. And then this floor, this is a faux floor here. This at this level will be flat with the rest of the seats when it's all down. You can also lower it if you just want a big well, and it covers everything. So you see I've got my camera gear here, and it actually is fairly deep to where all of that fits, and I can close the floor, and it's all nice to have in there. So if you've been in a recent Explorer, this is all going to be fairly similar. The difference is really just the color and the materials. Otherwise, the whole point of the Explorer Timberline is to go get a little dirty off-road. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's head off to the trail. All right, so on the way to this little trail we're about to do, and trail is a generous term, this is probably about as difficult as most Explorer Timberline owners are gonna take these things off-roading generally, but be a nice way to test out all the capability. But regardless, you have to drive to and from these trails, and you're gonna use these cars as daily drivers on the street on paved roads like where we are. So worth talking about just how these are as street cars. The Explorer obviously is, it's been around for a while, it's pretty well loved. This is not a new vehicle for 2022. It's been around for a few years at this point. This is on that rear-wheel drive based platform. So while it looks kind of like the generation that came before it, it's on a new platform in the last few years. I think since 2017 or 18. I could be wrong. But in any case, the platform itself is, I think, pretty good. The Timberline bits make me less excited about driving this on the street. Number one, the seats. These seats are not the most comfortable for me, and I don't know if it's because of the different materials and if that makes the seat be completely different from like an Explorer ST or Limited or XLT or whatever, but I don't love the seats, and I've had a somewhat difficult time getting a super comfortable driving position. It's okay, but I have been more comfortable in other three-row crossovers than in this one. That said, I like the driving position and visibility and everything. You can reach all the controls pretty well. The dash is nice and low. I mentioned I like having the smaller infotainment screen because it's actually more out of your way. This is still a big car. You've got a lot of room behind you, for better or for worse. So for the sake of off-roading, that can be a little bit of a challenge, but if you want to put people in all three rows, it is relatively spacious, so that is, a nice thing. And then, I have interesting feelings on the engine in this car. I have driven the 2.3 in the Bronco, I have driven the 2.3 in the Mustang, and I like it in both cases. I think it builds power nicely all the way to redline. So, the power is not in question. It makes enough power and torque for this vehicle. The Explorer Timberline is quoted at being 4,700, 4,800 pounds. So it's fairly heavy compared to a two-door Bronco or obviously a Mustang, but the torque is still enough. What I don't love, in the Mustang and the Bronco, you kind of expect a little bit more of a rough and tumble engine. You're okay with some of that visceral sound and vibration, whatever, that comes with having a four-cylinder, because they tune it to sound and feel, appropriate for the vehicle. In the Timberline, right now, we're just in one of the overdrive gears, but if you put your foot into it, or if you downshift and, get it wound out a little bit, it's not the most refined sounding thing, and I just can't say I think it fits the character of the car. I know Ford has other drivetrains. They have a twin-turbo 3-liter V6. They've got their other EcoBoost offerings. There's a lot of things they could do with this that they haven't, and it kind of surprises me that they picked the 4-cylinder to go in this. Maybe my feelings will change when we're on the trail, but something about it doesn't quite work for me. They also changed the steering ratio with the Timberline in particular, and it's fine at speed. We're at 55 miles an hour here, but at parking lot speeds, it is disconcerting because something about it seems off. I can't tell if I think it's too fast or too slow. I think it's a little slower than a normal Explorer would be, but something about it is different, and I find it again, just not quite my favorite for street driving. I think the entire package is fine if you're going to be using it frequently. I think if you're going to be on road more than not, if you're not one of those people that goes to a campground every weekend or goes fishing or goes, to play in the desert somewhere, wherever you live, if you're not going adventuring every weekend, I don't know if this is necessarily the trim I'd recommend if you're like dead set on an Explorer. You get more tire noise from these all-terrains versus a highway tire, which is another thing to consider, plus the engine noise. So it just it is what it is, and you have to really want the off-road bits. We'll see if they are any good in just a second. But for just street driving, if you're thinking this is gonna just like look really cool and otherwise barely ever leave the pavement, I would really just encourage you to test drive this one and a XLT or a Limited or a whatever fits your budget, because you may go a different route if you're dead set on an Explorer. And then of course, while we're on this road here, the other thing worth mentioning is price. This one is not the equivalent of a fully loaded Explorer. This is not like a Platinum or a King Ranch or something. This is more of a mid-trim for options. And you've got everything you would necessarily need. This one comes in around $49,000. And, if you don't care about the off-road bits, I think you can get more streetcar Explorer for your money if you look at the other trims. Just some quick thoughts on street driving in this Explorer Timberline. Let's get to the trail and see how it feels there. Alrighty, so we made it to this trailhead. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my drive mode into one of these for off-roading. There's slippery, there's trail, and then there's deep snow and sand. So I'm just gonna go for trail because it's about all we need for this. This is not ultimately a very challenging trail. It will get worse than this as we go on, but for the most part, it's kind of a lousy service road of sorts. Now, right away, I'm noticing that having this in trail mode, it turns off the traction control and it is holding lower gears for a longer period of time. So that's nice. On the highway in normal mode, you can notice the transmission getting a little reluctant to downshift in certain spots, and it will actually kind of lug the engine a little bit, which is not super fun. You get a lot of weird vibration in the cabin and stuff, so I appreciate the fact that it's trying to keep the power more on tap here. I'm kind of aiming for these bumps on purpose just to really feel out the suspension. I do think the suspension, despite all of my other kind of gripes about using this as an on-road vehicle more than off-road, having this different suspension setup actually rides really nice on the highway. It's nice and soft, so when you get a lot of those imperfections in your roads, both in the city or on the highway, it does do a nice job soaking them up. And here we are at the clearing. This is the fun part. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And so the rule with off-roading is, as slow as possible, as fast as necessary. And even going through some mud like this, you don't want to necessarily gun it, but this is doing just fine with all of these little slippery bits here. And you can feel the differential helping you out a little, and the ride is certainly pretty nice. For something like this, this is entirely all the vehicle you need to just come play in a place like this, not worry with these tracks that have been made, and just feel comfortable driving through everything with your skid plates, with enough clearance. Obviously, if you're looking to do anything more difficult than this, you may want a different car, but let's clear that away. Well, we're heading back down from having our fun at the top of this trail. Very muddy up there. You can see, obviously, we had plenty of fun. The tires did a generally good job. There was one spot, unfortunately not captured on video, for better or for worse, where I just kind of had no steering and thought we might be needing a tow rope for a brief second, and that is honestly where the limited slip differential on the rear axle of this Explorer came into play. And that is because my front tires had not a lot of traction to speak of, my rear wheels had some, and what I could feel it doing was sending power left to right at the rear axle to try and drag me backwards in reverse. And that was actually how I got out of my somewhat sticky situation there, where it let me back out just enough to where the front tires found tracks to go through, and then I could go forward and get through the rest of the little trail or obstacle or whatever you want to call it. This is the little hill climb, and it's dry enough, so we're gonna give it a shot. I'm just in first gear, so all right, and that is it for this off-road focused review of the 2022 Ford Explorer Timberline. Thank you so much for coming along with us today. As always, if you like what we're up to, please like, share, comment, subscribe right here on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at OutMotorsports. And if you'd like to connect with other LGBT automotive enthusiasts, please head over to outmotorsports.com. We have a whole community over there, and we would love to have you join us. Until next time, please stay safe, be well, see you for the next one.